All right, I should be live now on Facebook and YouTube. Let me pull up Instagram. There we go. All right, I should be live on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Now, for some reason, my camera on my computer, I'm still working on trying to be sure that my picture and my voice stay in sync. So I'm probably going to have to change the frame a couple times, and I am going to pull up some other stuff, so that's going to make a difference too. All right, so I will give people a few more minutes to come on because I'll start on time. So I'm going to start right at 10 o'clock, like I said I would. But I want to give people a few minutes to come on because we have some very interesting things to talk about. I started this weekly comics chat because I had so many of my people on social media ask me, where was my show? What did I have to say? And then I figured out a long time ago that I couldn't cover every event because there's just too many of them. There's just too much going on. And even if you don't, even if your focus is trying to YouTube full time, you really can't do too much else. And I have many other things that I do, behind you see my comic book. I write comics, I write children's books, I write music, I write novels. So I have more to do. And again, I'm not taking a dig at anyone. I'm just saying that when people were asking me, where's my show? I can do like a weekly, 1 hour live or so. That's what we're doing here. Because I do want to talk about the stuff that's happened in fandom during the week. Because Lord have mercy, there's not a week that goes by where there was something ain't done popped off. Something in fandom, there's not a week that goes by where something in fandom hasn't just popped off. And so that's what I want to talk about. All right, 10 o'clock, so we're going to get started because I'll start on time. Today's weekly comics chat is about so much fatigue. So much fatigue. Okay? What I'm going to talk about today is so much fatigue. So the first thing I want to do is let us look at the definition of fatigue because it's all going to apply to what we're talking about today. So you should see that now on your screen. Okay? Move that out to one. So what is the definition of fatigue? Now that is, let me see if I can make that a little bit bigger. Okay. So hopefully you can see that better now. Okay. So fatigue, extreme tiredness resulting from mental or physical exertion or illness. Fatigue, weakness in materials, especially metal, caused by repeated variations of stress. Those are the noun uses of fatigue. Fatigue as a verb means to cause someone to feel tired or exhausted. We're going to talk about that. And to weaken a material, especially metal, by repeated variations of stress. So that's actually what the word fatigue means. How does that apply in the context of what I'm going to talk about today? Well, we're going to talk about at least 3 different areas of fatigue. And remember, we're talking about extreme tiredness resulting from exertion, mental or physical. When it comes to metal, the weakness in the materials caused by repeated variations of stress. And then as a verb, to cause someone to feel tired. Something or somebody causing you to feel tired. That's fatigue. Okay, so remember, that's what we're going to talk about today. So I just want to be sure I define my terms because I'm a teacher And so I always like to be sure that terms are defined so everybody knows what we're talking about. Mhm. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is celebrity fatigue. The first kind of fatigue I'm going to talk about is indeed celebrity fatigue. Now, why am I starting with that one? Because it needs to be addressed. Now, it's not that it hasn't been addressed, but I kind of want to put a fine point on it. So let's start with our favorite person, our favorite example, and that is Rachel Zegler. Rachel Zegler. Now, what's up, Kenius? Good to see you. Now, why are we talking about her? Because Rachel is kind of, there's such a thing as a convergence person. A convergence person is where many, 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 many vectors in a point in time come together and converge on one person. So sometimes a person becomes the face of the cultural zeitgeist. Sometimes a person becomes the face of everything that's happening in a certain time period in a certain area. And Rachel Zegler is the face of the, oh no, in current celebrity fatigue. No, that's not what I want. She's the face of current celebrity fatigue because this particular child is just so stinking entitled. Everything that she does comes across as entitled, like she's old. Her backstory is that she was discovered by Spielberg because she really can sing. She really has a great voice. But ever since she came on the scene, she started feeling like she was entitled to more than she was getting. And she kind of guilt-tripped her way into a Hollywood award show. And then the way the general populace became aware of her is when she started bashing Snow White. Now, that's what I mean about celebrity fatigue. Why would you gut and bash and belittle literally the very thing that built the kingdom that you're standing on? Because Walt Disney was built off of Snow White. If Snow White hadn't done well back in 1937, then Disney might have never come to be, or it might have come to be later, or, history would be different. But Snow White was such a hit back in the day because of its advanced animation techniques. So why would you choose to bash that story? Because that's the thing that gave you a job now. And what you're doing now is you're starring in a remake of the very thing that built the house you're living in. So why is that so tiring? It's because of the entitlement. And it's because of a lack of respecting history. Now, just to give you some of my personal story, my father made me watch his music with him. And my father, I listened to a lot of the stuff he listened to. So that's how I developed an appreciation for things that were not necessarily of my time. And then my mother loved Aretha Franklin. She played Aretha Franklin all the time. So I got exposed to the kinds of things my parents were into. And it was cool. And me and my father had a lot of talks about it too. So I'm saying, when you don't have any respect for what's gone before, when you think it's your job to bash, which a lot of people feel that now. A lot of people feel like, just like what's that line from Star Wars, get rid of the past, kill it if you have to. Why? Why is there such an incessant need to bash that which has come before and bash that which is the thing that's giving you the career you have now? Why is that such an obsession to where you feel the need to do that? Why? Why is that? Well, one of the answers, maybe not the only answer, but one of the answers is because you feel entitled to what you have. And I was just talking to somebody about that this week. That's what happens when you have a participation trophy generation. What that means in clear terms is when you've been applauded since you were a baby and you get applauded just for showing up. You don't have to do anything. It's just because you walked in the room and you get a standing ovation. Also, the big thing happened, and we know who started it, but I'm not going to name the group because that'll be another fight. I'm going to talk about that later too. If there's a 13-person race and you come in 13th, dead last, you are not a winner. But we had a group of people whose name I won't call, but we all know who it was, who started saying, no, we can't let the kids feel bad. Everybody's a winner. So everybody gets a trophy. That was a huge cultural shift many years ago, and it was a huge mistake. I knew it was a mistake then, but you're seeing the fallout from it now. Anybody that's a real champion, anybody that's a real fighter, anybody that's a real winner knows it's precisely your down times. It's precisely the times that you lost. It's precisely the times that you got beaten. It's precisely the times that your enemies, your opponents were standing over you, gloating, laughing in your face, kicking dirt in your face. It's precisely those times that made you ball up your fist, rise up, and become a champion. That's the whole theme of Rocky. That's the whole theme of Rocky 3, isn't it? That Rocky was so out of sorts, so disconnected. He becomes so soft from success and becomes so dependent on Mick that he lost his edge. And Mr. T, Clubber Lang, beat him in 2 rounds. So Rocky had to come all the way back. And Apollo taught him how to get the eye of the tiger again. Those thematic concepts are what I'm talking about. It's the losing and the pain and the blood in your teeth. Every man knows that taste. Every man knows the taste of when you've been popped in the mouth and you're bleeding. Something about that makes something in you, maybe the feral part of you, stand up. Okay? And so it's the loss, it's the pain, it's the struggle. Ask any gymnast. Any gymnast will tell you it's the hundreds of times that they fell on their face that made them determined to develop the balance and the skill and the strength that it took to do their gymnastic routines. It's the hundreds of times that they fell that made them want to do and be better. Do you understand that? But when you have raised a generation on participation trophies, in other words, you get rewarded just because you showed up. You get rewarded just because you're the great and mighty you. When you train people like that, that's what makes them not have any respect for what they're standing on to get to where they are. My father taught me different from that. When I was a kid, you had to respect people older than you just because they were older than you, just because they had clocked more years of life on earth than you stay in a child's place and you be respectful. That's how I was raised. So, but now when you've raised people to feel like I'm great, I'm mighty, I'm wonderful just because I'm the mighty me, then that's the only reason you would come out and kick the foundation of the house you're living in. No one has epitomized that like Rachel Zegler. Kicking the foundation of the house that you're living in. For those of you just now coming on, our topic today is so much fatigue. And I'm going to talk about 3 different areas that we're tired of, that we having so much fatigue in. First one is celebrity fatigue. And this is one of the reasons why. Another thing that Rachel has brought to the forefront is that it seems like celebrities nowadays don't understand that we're not really interested in their political views. Not that they can't have them. Of course they can have them. Your political beliefs, your religious beliefs, your family beliefs are up to you. As a human being, you have the right to decide what you believe and how you want to order your life. And as an American, you have the right to build the life that you want. Obviously, of course, if it doesn't violate any other laws. But I'm saying we have much freedom in this country to build the lives that are reflective of what we believe spiritually, what we believe politically, what we believe socially. What's wrong with that? Nothing. But when you start sprinkling that in with your promotion of a movie, that always is going to blow up in your face. Because that's not what we want from you. What we want from you is to be entertained. So get out there and dance, get out there and sing, get out there and act, get out there and use your creative performance talents, and then go somewhere and have a Snickers and sit down. Because the audience is not there, nor are we paying tickets to see you perform to be lectured to about your social political views or that type of thing. We have plenty of different faith-based, and then we have a lot of non-faith-based organizations and things in this country. So you have the option to join organizations or go to arenas and environments where people of like minds are talking about what they believe about God. We have that option. We have that freedom, still very much so in America. But we don't need to hear it from celebrities. We don't need to hear them pushing their social political agendas or religious agendas or whatever. We don't. That's not what we're paying you for, baby. Get up there and sing and act and do what you do, and then all good. So if you notice, the celebrities that get that tend to stay out of trouble. They tend to just do their job, and whatever else they believe, they're just going about their business, about their life. You notice that? But Rachel is the one that blew the lid off that with her Instagram comments and alienating half the country by saying that, you know, if we weren't going to vote blue, we weren't going to vote for Kamala, unfollow her because she didn't need our business. Oh my goodness. And that stuff about, you know, Trump supporters not, may they never know peace and all that, that's a curse. You're trying to curse somebody. Would you say that? And so you're going to do that to half the country. Your job is not about the social or political or religious beliefs of your audience. It's about you entertaining them. See, I shouldn't even have to say that. That seems so simple. Why do I have to say that out loud? But your job is not about that. Your job is about entertaining. And people are free to then go into whatever arenas they want to be in that line up with their beliefs. So we tired of that kind of foolishness. Next up, next celebrity I'm going to talk about is Scarlett Johansson. Now, David, why are you talking about Scarlett Johansson? I'll tell you why. Because I don't understand her. And so I'm really kind of throwing it out to my audience. So those of you in the comments, I want you to weigh in. Those of you that watch this video later, leave me some comments because I really don't understand her. So that's what I'm talking about. What I don't understand about Miss ScarJo is I don't understand what her issue is, because she recently has been crowned the most successful actor in terms of her box office returns. So she beat out Samuel L. Jackson. So I think her box office total returns are over 15 billion now. So she's brought in more money in terms of her movies than any other actor. And she's been in major franchises. She obviously was a central part of the MCU as Black Widow. And now I know that they did her wrong on several occasions there. I know that they cut into her profit sharing by releasing her movie in theaters and on streaming at the same time. She had a beef with that. I got that. I agree with that because they weren't supposed to do that. And I know that the Black Widow movie should have been earlier than it was. I get that. But I mean, in general, I don't understand. And lately she's been talking about her career was about the male gaze and she didn't like that or whatever. And so the question I guess I would want to ask is, what else does she want? She's very attractive. She's got access to many of the top men. She's literally the most successful actor in terms of box office of all time. She starred in major franchises and her career is still going. She just turned 40 and she looks great. And so what I don't understand is, what is it that she feels like life cheated her of? What is it that she feels like she's missing? That I don't get it. Because sometimes in life, you know what we have to do sometimes in life? sometimes in life what we have to do is thank God for what we do have and not focus so much on what we don't have. So those of you that have some ideas about what I'm talking about, put it in the comments because I would really like to know. So is she mad that her success cost her something? Because my response to that is, what did you think was going to happen? There is no success in life without sacrifice. Did you know that? There is no success in life without sacrifice. If you want to be successful at anything, it's going to cost you something. Period. Dot. The end. Ask any top athlete what it costs them to be the best in the world. So that's what I'm saying. I don't understand her. I don't understand her issues with anything, because what more success could she have? So what is it that she feels like she's owed that she don't have? I don't get it. So y'all sound off in the comments and let me know if you got some theories about that, because I really don't get what her issues are. Honestly, I don't. Next up, oh Lord, we're gonna talk. You know who's next up? You know, if we're going to talk about celebrity fatigue, there's only one other person got to be on this list. You know who it is. Here it comes. Pedro Pascal himself. Pedro Pascal himself. Lord have mercy. This man is everywhere. This man is in everything, to the point where if you saw Liam Neeson the other day, he went to a screening of Naked Gun, and he said Pedro Pascal is not in this movie. So you know there's some type of fatigue when the actors themselves are making fun, that kind of thing, because Pascal is in everything. Why? Why is he in everything? Why? Now I have my theories. My theories are because I think that his branding is what they're trying to push. They're trying to establish that his particular brand, his vibe, his energy, his aura, if you will, is supposedly the new masculinity. Okay, I reject that wholeheartedly out of pocket. That's ridiculous, because there's no such thing as new masculinity. Masculinity has been around since people have been around, and they haven't changed. And it's not changed now. So just trying to tout someone or push someone or elevate someone to try to, whatever it is they're trying to do, I don't know, but that's not going to work. Not going to work. Because men that are men know how to be men. And we don't need an actor or somebody else to model that for us. I had a father taught me what I need to know. So I don't need that. Now, I'm not trying to bash or put down. It's not a dig on anyone that didn't have that. So don't take it that way. I'm saying it seems like to me this man is in everything, because it seems like to me he's the poster boy for their agenda. Multiple agendas, because every time he opens his mouth, he's pushing a very specific agenda. And so I think that he has so many greenlit projects for that reason. But what they don't understand is that you are not going to change people's beliefs just because some famous actors are always talking about whatever. No, you won't. You think you will, but no, you won't. People that know how to, oh Lord. Okay, I'm going to get to the comments at the end. I see you now. I'm going to get to that comment though. That's all there is. I'll do the comments at the end. So, but I'm definitely going to pull that one up. So no, you won't. No, you won't. You won't. How do we know that's true? I'll tell you how we know it's true. Didn't they push Carol Danvers really, really, really hard? Didn't they really, really put her forward? And, she's a hero and the hero's journey. And, didn't they push Kate Kane really hard when they introduced Kate Kane on the CW? And she got a hold of Batman's tech, Bruce Wayne's tech. And his costume designer said the suit is little perfection. And she said it will be when it fits a woman. Remember that? Remember that classic line? Did that make people watch the Batwoman show more? Did that work? Stuff like that don't work. Doesn't work. So that's what I'm thinking is going on with Pedro, I think. But a lot of his projects lately haven't really been major successes. So we'll see how this goes. But I'm saying even Hollywood is tired of him. So maybe they need to stop trying to put him in everything and maybe, show us some new and fresh faces. That's what I'm thinking. I could be wrong, but I'm just putting it out there. All right. Next up, let me make sure I said everything I want to say on this. Okay. Next up, Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy on this next topic up in here. Next up, what I'm going to talk about, because today's topic is so much fatigue. Next up, what I'm going to talk about is social media fatigue. I'm going to talk about social media fatigue. So let me put this tweet put up yesterday. Let me put that on the screen. So pre-2000, you could say you love a movie, and that was the end of it. Post-2010, people started saying that other people were insane if they didn't like the movie. So before the turn of the century, you could just like what you liked. After 2010, people started saying there's something wrong with you if you don't like this piece of content, whatever it is. And then post 2015, it was if you don't like this movie, you're a sexist, misogynist, racist, phobic loser. See, this is why people get tired of being on social media. And this is why a lot of longtime fandom members are tired. Do you know why? Because fandom has now become a fight. You can no longer just like something because you like it. That ain't enough. You can no longer just have an opinion because that's your opinion. If you voice it on social media, then it's going to be some vultures to come to attack you. How dare you have the nerve to have your own opinion? And a lot of Hollywood people don't understand that people many times are fatigued before they see a movie because of this particular thing. That's how I felt about the Superman movie before I went to see it. I was tired of it before even I went to see it. Okay? Because everything now is a fight. Everything now is a fight. That's a good comment, Nim. I'm going to address that in a minute. So everything now is just a fight. You can no longer openly enjoy what you enjoy. It wasn't always like that. Of course, we always had debates in fandom, sci-fi, nerds, geeks, whatever you want to say. That's an 80s term, by the way. That's for some reason has stuck. But, we always had Star Trek versus Star Wars. We always had, who's the central character of the franchise. We've always and still had a lot of our most fun fan cast, actors we would like to see in a role. We've always had cosplay. We've always had conventions. Remember, it was not remember if you're not old enough to know, but it was the Star Trek fandom that revived the Star Trek franchise. When they took Star Trek off the air, however many years ago in the 60s, and I'm talking about the original Trek with Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, when they took that off the air, the studio was done with it. It was the fans constantly writing to Paramount, constantly asking for more, constantly saying that they wanted more Star Trek that actually brought it back, if you didn't know that. That's why we have Star Trek to this day, because the fans resurrected a dead TV show because of their support. So you can't tell me that we haven't always been passionate and been supportive of these franchises, but prior to this century, that was okay. Well, like I said, friendly debates or whatever, but that was okay. Then when the 21st century hit, all of a sudden things started to change and people went from not just, I like it, but people went to, there's something wrong with you if you don't like it. Now, if you follow me on Twitter, you know how I feel about that, but let me state in my live stream broadcast that is the dumbest bunch of garbage I ever heard in my life. You don't get to tell other people what to think and feel. You don't get to tell other people what they're supposed to like. It's so dumb. I don't understand that level of dumbosity. The dumbage. I don't understand it. I never have understood it. I never am going to understand that. What in the world make you think you get to tell other people what they're supposed to like? I don't understand it. So when people come on my timeline with their insults, I just posted a tweet yesterday. Somebody asked, I think it was Bradley Osborne, what don't you like about the Infinity Saga? And I posted a bunch of stuff. Here they come. Here come the vultures attacking me, cursing me, calling me names, whatever. I don't care what you say. The question was, name some stuff you don't like. So I named some stuff that I didn't like. It don't mean you don't have to like it. But nowadays, everything is a fight if you are a fan of anything. And then post 2015, it became you're a sexist, misogynist, racist, phobic loser if you don't like it. So now all these isms and all these is and all these phobes are now attached to you not liking a particular piece of content. And again, that's something else that I have called out as lies and garbage since I first heard it. Oh, okay, I'm slowing down again. So let me change my Zoom again. Because for some reason, my camera and my computer keep fighting, and the image and the audio is lagging. But anyway, as soon as I heard that argument, the first time I heard that argument, now when that argument got codified into popular culture was when Melissa McCarthy said of Ghostbusters 2016, she said, if you don't like it, you just don't like women. If you don't like it, you don't like it because women are the lead. And the first time I heard that, I was like, try again. How can anybody with a straight face say that the geek, nerd, sci-fi, fantasy community don't like women in the league, don't like strong women, all that's a lie. How far back do we have to go? We can go back to Lieutenant Uhura, Mighty Isis, Jamie Summers, Bionic Woman, Xena Gabrielle, Sarah Connor, Ripley, to the biggest icons in sci-fi, Trinity from the Matrix, Zoe Washburn from Firefly. And, I know I'm forgetting some, but, list them in the comments. You know what I'm talking about. Strong women characters that we have loved over the decades. So as soon as I heard somebody say that we didn't like strong women, I was like, call that out immediately. I still call it out to this day because it's a lie. But they started attaching those types of terms and that type of phraseology to if you didn't like something. And I noticed it very acutely when I was doing Flash Chat. Now, for those of you who don't know, those of you that have followed me for a long time on Twitter know that I used to do something called Flash Chat. So every time there's an episode of The Flash, I would review it online live on Twitter and on YouTube. So I would post questions, and then I would have all my followers answer the questions of what they thought about the episode. And it was really a lot of fun. And that's what a lot of people know me from when I did Flash Chat. Eventually, however, I had to let it go because the Flash got so repetitive. It got so bad in its later seasons. I'm like, I just can't do it anymore. I couldn't even think of any new questions. But anyway, I first noticed that garbage from people when I would criticize Iris. They would say, just say you hate Black women. I was like, what? See, anybody that ever tells you you don't have a right to exercise your critical analysis skills, somebody telling you to just shut your brain off and consume, why would you listen to a voice like that? Why did God give you critical analysis skills if you weren't supposed to use them? Please answer that question for me. I was not criticizing Candace Patton. I don't know Candace Patton. I was talking about Iris West as a character. And as soon as I did that, I kept getting the just say you hate Black women. And I was like, no, I don't hate women and I don't hate black women. I'm talking about this character. But that's when I started seeing very acutely that broad general brushstroke of, if you dislike one thing, then now all of a sudden you hate an entire group of people, and now all of a sudden you're a misogynist or a phobe or something. You ain't gonna never get me to get with that, because that's the dumbest bunch of crap I've heard in my life. If you go to a restaurant and you order some spaghetti and they bring you some steak, it doesn't matter how well the steak is cooked. That ain't what you ordered. If you go to a restaurant and you get what you ordered, but they didn't cook it well, when you chew into it and you taste it, you're going to analyze, this is too salty, this doesn't have enough spice, this is undercooked, this is overcooked. You will naturally do that with a plate of food. You will critically analyze if this is the food that I wanted. But somehow, here come these people on social media trying to tell you that you can't do that with your entertainment content, that you must be a racist, that all white characters must be made black. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. It's so dumb, you ain't going to never get me to get with that. And if that makes you offended, then just be offended. Oh, my face is slowing down again. But if that makes you angry, then you just have to be angry. Give yourself an aneurysm being angry because you don't like the fact that people have a right to critically analyze a piece of entertainment. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Anything that's asking for my time, my emotional energy, and my money, I've got a right to analyze it to see if that's what I want to keep giving my time, my emotional energy, my money to. See, you're asking for something from me, so you have to give something to me. These are not difficult concepts, and that's not too much to ask. So, unfortunately, now everything about fandom has become a fight. Unfortunately, now you can't just like something or dislike something or whatever. I also saw it with Batwoman. Batwoman was such a pathetic show. And then they changed from Kate Kane to whatever her name was, Ryan. And she lived in a van down by the river. I'm not even exaggerating. That was her origin. You know how Ryan became Batwoman? The equipment fell out of an airplane near her van down by the river. And she picked it up. All of a sudden, she said she's a superhero. I'm not even making that up a little bit. And every time Batwoman would come on, do you know the CW didn't even change their account to reflect there was no longer Kate Kane? Every week it said Kate Kane fights crime in Gotham as Batwoman. I was like, it ain't even her no more. Y'all not even paying attention to your own show. And every time I criticize Batwoman, here they come talking about, just say you hate black women. I do not hate women. I do not hate black women. I was rightfully criticizing and analyzing that show because even the people that created the show weren't paying attention to it. Why should we care about something that the content creators don't care about themselves? And then don't get me started into the eras of Star Trek. There's Roddenberry Trek, there's Berman Trek, now there's Kurtzman Trek. 3 different eras, 3 different things. Lord have mercy. I could do a whole live stream on Star Trek. Maybe I will one time, but don't get me started on that. So the point I'm trying to make is that it's tiring because, again, today's topic, for those of you that came on late, today's topic is so much fatigue. We have so much fatigue. And everything with fandom now is just such a fight. It's just such a fight. And people are tired. I know I am. People are tired of everything being a fight, of everything having to be justified, everything having to be explained. People coming on your timeline, calling you names, telling you don't have a right to like what you like, or you don't have a right to dislike what you dislike. That type of immaturity and that type of, I don't know how to say it, that type of simple-minded thinking is ridiculous. Why do you have critical analysis skills? I'm going to ask you again. When you want to buy a house, do you just buy any house that they give you? When you want to buy a car, do you just buy any car that they give you? So then why does anybody think we just have to accept the entertainment and just ooh and ah and say it's the greatest thing ever? Okay, if you know the story of the emperor's new clothes, long story short, emperor was used to modeling new robes and new fashions in front of the people. And every time he would come out with his new threads on, everybody would just say, oh, emperor, oh, that's just the best ever. One day, emperor came out butt naked. One day, emperor came out with no clothes on at all. And everybody was scared to say anything. So they were just ooh and ah, that was the greatest. And there was one person standing over the corner talking about, excuse me, y'all, that man naked. I'm that guy. If the emperor come out on the platform and he ain't got no drawers on, and everybody oohing on like he does, I'm gonna be the one person in the crowd say, excuse me, that man ain't got no drawers on. I'm sorry, he naked. Tired. We're tired of that. That's hurting so much. We're tired of that. We should have never let that voice in. What people are saying now is, they're saying now you need to gatekeep your hobbies. That's literally what people are saying now. Because we realize from 10 years of this foolishness that we should have never listened to those voices, which is what I'm going to talk about next. So up next, because what we're talking about today is fatigue. Up next, we're going to talk about superhero fatigue. Now, so much has been blamed on superhero fatigue, and I stopped by to call chicken scratch on that whole argument. That is not true. So I will give it a degree of truth, but it's a qualified truth. I'm going to explain that in a minute. But overall, I reject the concept. Do you know why I reject the concept of superhero fatigue? I will tell you why. Because Superman has been in print since 1938. He's never been out of print since 1938. Same with Batman in 1939. And they have been across all media. There's no form of media that we had, radio shows, movie serials, TV shows, major motion pictures, animation, animated shorts, full-length animated film, audiobooks. There is no form of media that we have had that Batman and Superman haven't been on. And they were invented in the late 1930s, and they haven't been out of print since. So what are you talking about, superhero fatigue? There's a degree I will agree to, and I'm going to explain that in a minute, but I reject the overall concept of superhero fatigue. That is not what people are tired of. What people are actually tired of is bad takes. And those bad takes have kind of taken on a life of their own. The bad takes have come in many, many forms, and the bad takes have come in many, many ways. And so let me break down and describe some of those takes. And remember, y'all, leave me some comments. I'm going to get to your comments in a minute. So leave me some comments on what I'm saying, because I'm going to pull those up when I get through. Okay? What are some of the bad takes that have been happening? Well, we know who started all this. We know who started it. I won't call their name because I'm not about to get in that fight. But we all know who started this. And we all know we should have never listened to him at the beginning. But we did. And so eventually that morphed into woke and DEI. Now, once again, I told you, when you have people, see, I'm not trying to insult people. I know it's going to come off that way. And I know people are going to say that. And I'm not purposely trying to take a dig at anybody, but I am trying to call out something called simplified thinking. When you have simple thinking, then you maybe not are wrestling with complex concepts. Like, people don't understand that words evolve. When you invent a word, It might mean one thing when you invent it. As time goes on, it can evolve into something else. For example, deck the halls with boughs of holly, fa la la la, la la la, 'tis the season to be jolly, fa la 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 la, down me now, or a gay apparel. The word gay used to mean happy, it used to mean bright, it used to mean festive. Now it means same-sex relationships. So you can't tell me that words don't evolve, because they do. So when the word woke was first used, what it meant was keep your eyes open and be aware of the way that the system is working against you. Stay woke. So in other words, when someone is a wolf in sheep's clothing, or it's another Trojan horse, or some type of institutionalized form of oppression where they're attacking your particular group of people, then don't be fooled by whoever you think the oppressor might be. Don't be fooled by what they're doing. Stay woke, stay awake. Understand that this is not in your benefit, in your favor. This is another way they're trying to destroy you. That's what woke meant when it was first circulated in wider use. That's what woke started out meaning. That is not what woke means now. What woke has come to mean is several things. What woke means now is men are bad. White men in particular are bad, and white men are the devil. Woke means that a male character must be replaced by a female character, and the female character has to be better than him in every way. The male character may have started out, most of the time, the male character did start out, but the female character all of a sudden can do anything he can do, but they can do it better. What woke means now is that all straight characters must be turned gay. It means that ginger characters, normally white people with red hair and freckles, have to be turned black for some reason, or Asian, or just something other than ginger. It has to mean that men can no longer save the day. It means that women that weigh maybe $150, 150 pounds, can take out men that weigh as much as linebackers. That's what woke means now. That's what woke means now. Okay? That's what people are tired of. That's what people are tired of. That's what people are tired of. If you use it in the context of a female character that is super powered, like Mighty Isis, like Xena, like Wonder Woman, Princess Diana of Themyscira, who have powers and abilities that are extra, that are above. What's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with that. Or when you use it in the context of women that turned it up. Ripley and Sarah Connor turned it up. They were faced with challenges they'd never seen before, and they became stronger. They turned it up. What's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But when it gets to the point where the female characters are just Mary Sue's, now that's another term that has evolved. Mary Sue was a Star Trek term originally, and it was the woman that coined it. It was like an insert character when you're standing for a character, and then it evolved from that to mean that everybody loves the character, and the character already has all the skills and all the knowledge. There's no growth. Okay? People are tired of that. So, and another thing that woke evolved into was DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. Lord have mercy. That has destroyed everything it's touched. Come here, Bud Light, testify. Come here, Jaguar, testify. Let me know how that DEI worked out for you. Okay, now, the funniest thing that people don't understand about the devil, and the funniest thing that people don't understand about lies, is that there will be a layer of truth on top of it, like icing on a cake. The thing to entice you to ingest and accept something will be based on the thin layer of icing on the top that makes it taste better in your mouth. So when you're talking about wokeness or DI or anything like that, the surface idea was said, why can't we have other voices in media? Why do all the heroes have to be white males? Why do all the writers have to be white or straight and white or whatever? Why can't we have more voices? Why can't we have more diverse characters than just white guys save the world all the time? On the surface, that's not necessarily a bad idea. Do you know what the problem is with it? The problem is with it is it's a lie. The next time somebody comes on your social media talking about DI and wokeness and blah, blah, next time that happens, say, riddle me this. If there was any truth to any of what they were saying, how was the content successful for 40, 60, and 80 years without all that? If straight characters had to be turned gay, if ginger characters had to be turned black, if male characters had to be turned female, if men could no longer save the day, if there was any truth to that, then how was all this content and all this IP successful for 40, 60, 80 years without it? If there's any truth to what they say, you let people that didn't consume the content come and take something that was already successful and say, well, that ain't right. We already had, at least in superhero fandom, but it's true like in Star Wars. It's true like in Star Trek. Star Trek was known for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Are you kidding me? The original crew, the Enterprise, Russians and Japanese and Black women and Scots. And so what are people talking about? We already had diversity, equity, and inclusion. Star Wars had different species, and we had Lando, and we had, different people represented. But in superhero fandom in particular, that's always been a lie. I can go all the way back to Super Stretch and Micro Woman, Black superheroes from the 70s. I can go all the way back there. I can go all the way back to the Super 7 with Hercules, and I need to pull that up, and Astra and Mercury and the Young Sentinels. I can go way back. We always had. As a matter of fact, I will pull it up so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, look at that. The Space Sentinels, the Freedom Force, had Mercury, which is Asian, Astra, which is Black, Hercules, Aryan, Isis, Egyptian. We had Samurai. Look at that. This is from way back then. It's from 1977. So how can they say we haven't had diversity, equity, and inclusion? How? It's not true. Okay, I'm finna pull up Super Stretch and Micro Woman. Oh Lord, I didn't pull up the video. I was just trying to pull up the picture. Okay, so let me pull that up. Super Stretch and Micro Woman right here. I got a small picture, but anyway, a Black couple. He could stretch like Reed Richards, and she could shrink like the Atom. That's going back to the 70s. So I want you to tell me at what point we didn't have diversity, equity, and inclusion. See, it's a lie. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand. It's always been a lie. It's always been a lie when they said we need more women. Look at how many women are in this picture. We got Diana. We got Janet Van Dyne, the Wasp. We got Big Barda. We got Zatanna. We got Black Canary, who's a legacy character, by the way. Her mother was Black Canary. in World War II. And then that was Dinah Drake, and then Dinah Lance took the mantle. We got Vixen, we got Donna Troy, and we got Cassie Sandsmark. We got Wanda Maximoff. We've got Supergirl. We got Mary Marvel. We got Power Girl, or two versions of Supergirl. We got Mockingbird. I mean, so what are they talking about? We got Sue Storm. We got Aurora. We got Rogue. We got Jean Grey. What are they talking about? The X-Men have always been, the all-new X-Men, because the first 5 X-Men were all white people, yes. But when they rebooted the X-Men, all new was an international team. Sunfire, Wolverine, which was Canadian and Japanese. Aurora, which was Kenyan. Colossus, Russian. Banshee, Irish. Nightcrawler, German. So, Nims, I see you, man. You cracking me up. So I'm gonna pull him up in a minute. So it's always been a lie. It's always been a lie. That's what I'm trying to establish. It's always been a lie. You should have never listened to anybody to tell you that something that's been as successful as superheroes that haven't been out of print since they first showed up. I'm talking about capes in 1938. You let somebody come to the door that didn't even consume your content and tell you that it wasn't successful and they've never been out of print. And so now we had to change everything. And they bought, when I say they, I mean the studios bought into it hook, line, and sinker. Okay? They won't listen to truth. They'll listen to everything but truth. You notice that? Everything but truth is what they listen to. So let me tell you something. Anything that's not based on truth, it can start, but it's not going to stand. One more time. Anything that's not based on truth, it can start. It's not going to stand. And that's why woke and DEI have destroyed everything that is touched, because there's nothing wrong with hiring people of different ethnic and sociological backgrounds to work in your company. But that ain't what they did. What they did was they hired based on demographics. We need more Black people. We need more women. We need more, different sexualities. We need this, we need that. Not we need more competent people. Not we need more competent writers. We just need a diversity of faces. And no. You are not a good or bad writer based on your size. You're a good or bad writer based on your writing. You understand that? It's a lie. Okay, and then wait, I think I have the article here. Yeah. Then look at this right here. Here come Feige talking about Captain America Brave New World suffered from no Chris Evans. And the whole internet collectively said, duh. Why do you think people would want to see a Captain America movie without Captain America? Why people would think that is beyond me. It's absolutely beyond me. No, Dave, you don't understand. Sam Wilson became Captain America in the comics. Yeah, and it didn't go over well then either. Nobody liked it in the comics. What about Kamala Khan, the first Muslim Pakistani hero? She's always touted as that. She's never been, all her popularity has been forced. It's never been organic. Carol Danvers was a great character when she was Ms. Marvel, all the way up through her Warbird phase. I kind of like binary myself as well, but all the way up through Carol Danvers' Warbird phase, she was great. We loved her. Who didn't love her? Then all of a sudden, here she comes with Captain Marvel, and she started with the male bashing. Then they hired Brie Larson and a whole bunch of stuff, and Captain Marvel's book has been rebooted like 12 times because she's never been successful. Carol Danvers has never been successful as Captain Marvel like she was as Ms. Marvel. You understand that? So it's all been a lie. And Feige talking about, suffered because there was no Chris Evans. What have I and others been saying for years now? For years now, what have we been saying? We've been saying they need to make an Invaders movie while they still can with Chris Evans. Are you kidding me? Captain America, Namor, Spitfire, Union Jack, Human Torch, Toro. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That would be, if they want $1 billion film. Chris Evans in the lead. That's money right there. But see, they listen to everything except truth. They listen to everything except truth. Now, somebody said this, and I want to kind of repeat this sentence because I love it. Somebody said that when it comes to Feige, somebody's writing checks for his Tumblr fiction projects after the success of Phase 1 MCU. Somebody's writing checks for his Tumblr fan fiction projects after the success of Phase 1 MCU. That's all the TV shows have been. Think about it. Think about the penchant of the Disney Plus shows to focus on characters we don't care about. Echo and Kate Bishop and Kamala Khan and always replacing the male characters. And what they did with She-Hulk was specifically written to troll fans. The writers said it. They specifically wrote She-Hulk to own the Chuz. Okay, but you got owned. Congratulations, you played yourself. Nobody wants to see her again. And She-Hulk was a greatly beloved character in the comics. It still is by longtime comic fans. But we don't like that Tatiana Maslany version. And there's nothing wrong with Tatiana. She's a great actress. But that, you owned yourself. You played yourself. You see that? That's what we're tired of. We've always had multiple ethnicities in superhero IP, sci-fi and fantasy IP. We've always had Star Trek. One of the staples of Star Trek is what? A not human character that wants to be human. Spock is half Vulcan, half human, and he struggled with it. And that's the beauty of his character. Data's an android that always wanted to be human. That's the beauty of his character. Seven of Nine is a little girl, got captured by the Borg, got turned into a Borg, got freed from the Borg, but she's not fully human, not fully Borg. And Captain Janeway was trying to work with her to bring Annika Hansen back, but she never comes all the way back. So, so that's what I'm telling you. In the face of everything that has actually happened in sci-fi and fantasy land and in comic book, it's all been lies. It's all been lies from the beginning. That's why I call it out whenever I see it. That's why I don't entertain people on my timeline talking that game. Just say you hate women. No. How about you actually study what you're talking about? Just like I made a tweet yesterday about Fantastic 2015. As soon as they said Michael B. Jordan was Johnny Storm, I was like, nope. Race swapping him for what? And him and Suicide brother and sister for what? No. What was the purpose? How does that enhance the character? It doesn't. And guess what's coming up next is Wonder Man is black. It's Ultimate Wonder Man, because we all know that the MCU got most of their source material from the Ultimate Universe and not the regular Bronze Age stuff that most of us grew up on. They thought the Ultimates was the greatest thing. And so some stuff was good. Sam Jackson as Nick Fury was good, but we know there's plenty of things in the Ultimates universe that was awful. But that's where they got most of their source material, like Banner trying to recreate Captain America, Super Soldier, so that's how it became the Hulk, blah, 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 blah. But they wouldn't pull from the stuff that made Marvel great. They pulled from the Ultimate Universe, which was hit and miss, and they said, let's do that, because that's what they always do. So I did a live stream a couple of weeks back about the Phase 6 slate and what's on the slate. And when you look at it, everybody just shaking their head. Everybody just shaking their head, like, really? Because it's Feige's Tumblr fan fiction projects that Disney's writing checks for. That's not stuff we want to see. Ms. Marvel is still the lowest rated TV show. They even you remember when they put it on ABC? They even gave it for free on network television. And people still didn't watch it. That don't tell them nothing. And once again, this was codified when Brie Larson said she didn't want to hear what some 40-year-old white dude, which she'd roll in her neck, what he didn't like about A Wrinkle in Time, or wasn't made for you. Remember when she said that? Okay, so I'm not a 40-year-old white dude, but when she said that, 40-year-old white dudes all across the country said, oh, okay. What made for us? They said, deuces. Which is exactly what I would have said if I was a 40-year-old white dude. I would have been like, not for, okay. Okay, see, because Monte is green. If you got a $20 bill in your hand, can you tell whether or not it came from a black hand or a Caucasian hand or a Japanese hand? And because last time I checked, I could be wrong. Last time I checked, Monte was green. But see, this whole thing is so ridiculous. That's why I'm amazed I even have to talk about it. I'm amazed we've gotten to this point in society where I even have to say these things out loud. If you want to make a piece of content and target it towards your target group, what's wrong with that? That's what Twilight is. Twilight is targeted towards adolescent girls. What is wrong with that? Not a single thing. If you want to make a movie and target it more towards nuclear families, what's wrong with that? Not a single thing. If you want to make a movie and it has its roots in African American culture, or it has its roots in Japanese American culture, what is wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Not a single thing. But now, instead of just making what you want to make and targeting the audience you want to see it, you got to bash other people. I don't understand that. You got to say there's something wrong with other people if they don't want to watch your content. Right. We're going to deal with that black snake in a minute. That's right. So let me start pulling some of these comments up because I'm loving you guys' comments. But do you understand what I'm saying? Do you see how ridiculous this whole thing is? Do you see how ridiculous the conversation has become? Because woke and DEI and diversity, equity, inclusion, all that has always been a lie. It's always been a lie. What's in the news this week? The whole thing with Sydney Sweeney and an advertisement about jeans. And they're saying that somehow it's pushing white supremacy and Nazism. And how come it can't just be an attractive actress modeling jeans? It's not like that's new. Haven't we had actors drinking soft drinks, and haven't we had actors in clothes, and haven't we had attractive actors pushing like skincare and just everything imaginable? Haven't we had attractive actors like all throughout your lifetime endorsing products? But see, this is what happens when you give crazy just an inch. You can't give crazy an inch. If you give crazy an inch, it's going to come in and affect everything in a 100-mile radius. That was a mistake we made. All right, let me address some of your comments because I'm really liking them. Okay, Nim says, I heard Zendaya starring as Pedro Pascal in a new biopic. Pedro will be playing Kevin Feige. Not only is that funny, but what makes it funny is that it's possible. The stuff we have to talk about now, what makes it so funny and so much of a shake my head moment is because it's never out of the realm of possibility. Because Pedro and Zendaya and Bella Ramsey are now their go-to actors for everything. Oh, and Cynthia Erivo are now their go-to actors for everything. And so now they'll gender swap, race swap, sexuality swap, anybody and anything now. Okay. Nim says he just owns it now. He's going to make sure it has a checklist of whatever. You can pick whatever you think I am. So I just don't engage with that on my social media because why? You just say you hate women. I don't hate women. Just say you hate black women. I don't hate black women. So your perspective is not that you projecting that on me. That's not actually me saying that. Okay. Saddest thing ever is a studio or the actors or writers blaming their own failures on the audience. Now that is spot on. That's something else that's come into vogue in the last 5 years, maybe since the pandemic. It existed before that, but it came into focus in the last 5 years. Whenever a project would fail, instead of the studio's writers, directors, or producers owning, maybe we didn't do a good job, maybe this didn't resonate with our target audience, maybe this wasn't what it should have been, they said, no, it's you. It's the fans. It's them racist fans. And Nerdrotic has said it a million times, except the most ironic thing about Nerdrotic and Critical Drinker is that they have actually become what their critics said they were. Originally, they started blaming YouTubers and saying that it's those YouTubers and they have so much power they can shut something down. That wasn't true at first, but it is now. Because Nerdrotic and Critical Drinker have been on Pierce Morgan. They've been on international shows. So it's true now. So all the people that hate the power and influence of YouTubers, you spoke it. You created it. So now you're going to have to live with it. Them said, I'm tired. I was called a sexist and they tried to cancel me the other day because I put boobs on a female character in my new comment. So drawing the correct anatomy of a female now all of a sudden makes you a sexist. So I don't understand that concept. So anybody that says that, you must not know what a sexist is. If we're going to draw female characters as female, which we always have, Hollywood writers and directors have superhero fatigue. They're bitter that executives are only interested in superheroes and franchises, so they relish in subverting them if they get their hands on it. That's an interesting perspective. So maybe the powers that be, once they saw that there was billion-dollar potential in superhero movies, said we're going to stop making everything except them. And maybe the writers and directors are tired of that. That's entirely feasible. So when they get their hands on them, they're taking out their venom and their vitriol at having to do them on the characters and the fans. That's entirely possible. That's a good point by Dave T. Keith. I'm not saying that that's what it is. I'm saying that's possible. That's legit. Crop writing fatigue and a real way sticking using the big names like Batman only movies and not doing serial episodes. No one has ever understood the Bat embargo, how they won't let Batman on TV when Batman the Animated Series was arguably the greatest animated series of all time, followed only by Justice League, and Andre Romano assembled the greatest voice cast of all time. But they couldn't use Batman on Smallville, and they couldn't use him on Gotham, and they couldn't use him on Teen Titans, which is why you saw him in Shadow out of costume. Why? Why? We've had multiple versions of Superman going. Superman Returns came out while Smallville was still on the air. Why? Why can't we do that? But there are, going back to this picture, there are so many other characters to choose from. Oh, okay, wait. Let me hide this and let me put this picture back up. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. So many other characters to choose from. So many characters that we've been reading for years that we would love to see. We'd love to see them. Okay? They also hate the redhead with a passion. There it is. That's right. No one understands the ginger hatred. No one understands the ginger side. But whenever we have a red-haired character, got to be turned, and they don't just turn him into like a brunette. They have to turn him into another ethnicity. They have to be Black or Asian. Why? Why? Woke was appropriated by intersectional feminism and a diversity, equity, inclusion push. That's right. That's right. Because I told you words morph, but when you let other groups take over words and then redefine them, what do you think is going to happen? Why would you listen to people that have never consumed your content? Or why would you listen to people that hate your content? That's never made any sense to me. The writers keep going over the same old ground. A series would allow them to really explore the stories. I want to see Batman doing more Mino detective work, more Spider-Man neighborhood stories. Agreed. They do that stuff in animation. They don't seem to want to do it in live action for whatever reason. They'll say that it was successful because America was raised to sexist, whatever back then. You can't argue with them. Yes, I can argue with them because if anything they said was right, why aren't the projects that have been DEI'd successful? If there's any truth to what they're saying, that straight characters must be gay, that you have to see yourself on the screen or you can't relate, that ginger characters must be a different ethnicity, that male characters must be subverted by female characters, that white characters have to be turned Black. And you've heard me say it before, but I've always had friends from all over the world and from many, many different cultures and languages. In America, they think that black people and white people are the only people in the world. And they think that turning something black fixes something. Is that supposed to be a response to slavery? Is that a reparation overture? I've never understood that. I've never understood why they think turning a white character black fixes something. What does that fix? What does that do? Does that erase the past? I've never understood that. I've never understood why Americans think that only white people and black people exist in the world and they're the only people that count. I'm like, you do realize that America is the youngest country on earth, or one of them. You do realize that there's a whole planet of people out there that have been around longer than us, and people can trace their history back to Bible times. You do realize that, right? So, yeah, I don't care what they say. If there was any truth to what they were saying, then the shows that they push for, like what's our most current example? The Acolyte. What was The Acolyte about? Lesbian space witches. Lesbian space witches. That's what The Acolyte was about. The power of one, the power of two, the power of fail. If there was any truth to what they were saying, those shows would have been more successful. It's a lie. Okay. I want to see the Hulk TV series rebooted. That should not be limited to movies, and that would be really good if you get the right writers on it, and if you use the same thing about the nomadic wandering Bruce Banner, where he has to go from town to town. That would be cool. And you bring Betty in, and so like a blend of the Lou Ferrigno, Bill Bixby show from the 70s and the Norton Hulk with Liv Tyler and all that. That would be awesome. I would love that. Okay. I miss serial shows that follow characters' journey. Yes. Equity doesn't care if there are already plenty of minority characters, plenty of diversity. It's a quota system. As long as there are too many white males, equity dictates that is a problem. And once again, that's ridiculous. Once again, you're listening to people that, how can I say, that don't understand basic business. Because what Dave T. Geek is saying is right. They're saying, well, if there's too many white men, that in and of itself makes it a problem. And I'm like, if your fan base is mainly white males, see, all you have to do is pay attention to the companies that accepted this foolishness and started trying to market to people that didn't buy their product. What happened to them? Started insulting the people that did buy their product. What happened to them? Star Wars was the longest running, most powerful, most successful, most multi-billion-dollar sci-fi and fantasy franchise in the history of sci-fi and fantasy franchises, and they ran it in the ground in 3 movies. They ran it in the ground. It didn't take but 3 movies, and they ran it in the ground. They ran it in the ground. Star Wars, the brand name of Star Wars used to be a guarantee of printing money. And they ran it in the ground because they hate George Lucas. They hate his characters. They hate paying him royalties. They hate what Star Wars stood for. They hate. So they've done everything they could to destroy it. And congratulations, you're successful. Okay. You can't call her Big Barbara. She's not fat positive. Oh, Lord. Okay. Also, for equity, merely adding more diversity is not fast enough and can also be ignored. So you must supplant and subvert the white male characters and even straight black males. See, that's right, and that's just hatred. That's just people that just hate people and hate entire groups of people. And I can say that because I've been a part of it since I was a child. The comic book fandom has been one of the most accepting fandoms out there that I've ever seen because there are no barriers to entry. Whoever you are, however old you are, whatever part of the world you come from, if you love superheroes, you are welcome. We're one of the most accepting fandoms out there because we get together because of our love of the stories and the characters and the story worlds. So unfortunately, we listen to people that hate everything that we love, and what's been the net result of that. I'm Hispanic and I like to see Latino characters. However, if you race swap another character, it's just pandering and insulting. Once again, on point. Why don't we use an already established Latino or Hispanic character? Hispanic means they come from a country where Spanish is their first language, primary language. Latino or Latino means they come from Latin America. They don't necessarily speak Spanish as a first language. Best example, of course, is Brazil, because they speak Portuguese as their main language. The world is full of a rich diversity of different kinds of people. The world is full of so many different wonderful cultures, and I love it. I love meeting new people. I love hearing their stories. I love hearing about their backgrounds and how they grew up, and what their grandparents taught them, and diet and social political structures. That whole thing, I love it. Me and them and Steve and Bracy, we reviewed Shogun. I love Shogun. It was heartbreaking, but I love Shogun. I loved seeing the cultural clash built into Shogun as a story world, and how everybody's trying to navigate based on cultural values. Because those are very real to people, and they're very different depending on the culture you're dealing with. I love that. So there's nothing wrong with us doing like this right here and picking from what we already have. Excuse me, what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. So unfortunately, we chose hatred. D.I. Namor, I did not enjoy the casting, me neither. I get they wanted him to be more Aztec or whatever, but that was not what we wanted to see exactly. I said this in a tweet yesterday. I said, it is not wrong to expect to see the character that you have supported and given money and time to up on the screen. That's not too much to ask. When I put money and time and emotional energy into a character for decades, then when I see them in live action, I want to see that character. The Namor, we saw the Namor. That was such garbage. That was such garbage. And sorry, not sorry. Okay, here we go. They want to make Snape black in the new Harry Potter because he's a good actor. And he may be, but Snape is so well defined in the books. That's right. And then there's other things with, hanging, and there's other things that would be sensitive to have a black actor in that role, because that completely changes everything. And once again, this is what we get for listening to these voices. This is what we get. So you better learn how to gatekeep harder. Worst thing though is this: they call racist, sexist, whatever about everything, and so the word means nothing. That's dangerous. Also true. What Nim is talking about there is crying wolf, the boy that cried wolf. If you're not familiar with that story, what that means is that there was a boy that lived in a village, and it was his job to, whenever a wolf was going to attack the village, he would cry out, wake everybody up, and let them know it's time to defend against the wolf. So he would, for fun, just cry wolf to wake everybody up and say, aha, just kidding. So after about 4 or 5 times of that, after that, a wolf really did come. He cried wolf and nobody got up and they all got slaughtered. Because after you keep doing something, keep doing something, keep doing something, and you overuse a word, or you wear it out, or you wear a concept out, or you beat something in the ground, you're going to take all the teeth out of the word. So if everybody's a racist, racism doesn't mean anything. If everybody's a sexist, sexism doesn't mean anything. And that is dangerous, because it's like calling people certain pejorative terms. When a real one shows up, you want to be able to deal with the real one. But when you call everybody else that thing, then you've diluted its impact. Well, I know when I want space witches, I want them in lesbian form. The acolyte, how did the acolyte work out? Wild card, I like how every modern black character is a stereotypical hood thug or millennial ghetto rap goody two shoes. I'm shaking my head because this has been a perennial problem with black depictions all along. So even up to this day, even up to 2025, we're still dealing with very narrow views of African Americans. That's why the Cosby Show back in the day was so powerful, because it finally gave a picture of Black America that wasn't just based on ghetto life. They were educated people, they were upper middle class or lower upper class, or went to college, all that, just a different picture. That's why the Cosby Show in a different world had such impact way back in the day. But now, look at Ironheart. Stereotypical hood thug or millennial ghetto rap instead of Static Shock, Miles Morales, different characters with different backgrounds, mixed characters, just so many different characters we could pull from. Just these same old small stereotypes. We need original characters that perhaps don't portray a stereotype. Peter Parker's subversion on the nerd stereotype. Got bit by a mutant spider, got more strength than the school bullies. That's a good point. Nothing wrong with stereotypes, but they can become overused. Nothing wrong with subverting stereotypes if it's done well. Because Firefly, Joss Whedon's Firefly, was a subversion of every possible stereotype, except the one stereotype that Whedon loves to write, which is the girl that's the key to everything. Whedon only writes Buffy. And so whenever show that Whedon has his hand in, every movie that Whedon has his hand in, there's a Buffy. Because that's all he writes is the girl that's the key to everything. Faster, stronger, smarter than all the men, blah, blah, blah. But yeah. Top of that, he learns when brains and brawns are needed for each situation. He doesn't need intelligence all the time with fist work. Now, let me piggyback on that and let me talk about Captain Marvel, Shazam. Captain Marvel, DC Captain Marvel from Fawcett, Shazam, is my favorite character tied with Batman. I kept trying to see is Batman 1 and Captain Marvel 2, but I love them both the same. Whenever they write Captain Marvel now, he's big with superpowers. He's 12 in a grown person body. No, Captain Marvel is an adult version of Billy Batson. So however old Billy is, anywhere from 8 to 12 to 14, depending on the version, when he says his magic word and he turns into Captain Marvel, he's not still 12 in the head. He's Billy as a 30-year-old man, and he has the wisdom of Solomon, which is the first power they always cut out. Captain Marvel, out of all the characters, should be the character that says, what is the wise thing to do in this situation? Because that's one of his powers. Is this something I need to fight my way through? Do I need to talk my way through this? He doesn't have heat vision or freeze breath, but he does have super speed, super strength, and he has stamina. Can I outlast him? See, that ought to be part and parcel of Cap's presentations. But MCU doesn't have Namor. They have Kukul Khan. Yikes. We had good expanded universe characters for every franchise. Modern day expanded universe characters are just a sad waste of the imagination of putrid blue-haired incels who were probably bullied. Right. Do y'all know who Geode is in Star Wars? The Rock. The sentient rock. Because all of a sudden everybody can be a Jedi, and I love that meme. Han Solo was yelling at Finn. That's not how the Force works. That's not how any of this works. But everybody can be a Jedi now, and it no longer has anything to do with character. Oh, spare me, because everybody's got to be a hero, whatever. Okay. I found Ironheart to be more of a stereotype than they may have wanted. I didn't find her to have that superhero quality. Could be me. No, Kiddings, is not just you. No, Ironheart is a criminal and a thug and completely narcissistic. Everything is about her. I want to be epic. I want to be famous. I. Not I want to serve people, not I want to help people, but I. Total narcissist. It's all about me and my name and my reputation and my legacy and how big I want to blow up and I. So no, it's not just you. If they want to make new stories that aren't about what superheroes did and not always involve cannibalism, like they're trashy, maybe Marvel can do stories about terrible accidents that result in superheroes were there to stop the victims and are humble like a boyfriend, amputated legs, a girlfriend willing to still love them, and do more sensitive topics that run home. Remember that we already have that. We have Doom Patrol, which was body horror. Now, Trank tried to take the FF towards body horror. FF started that way and pulled back more towards heroism, exploration, and cosmic adventures. But we do have Doom Patrol. We do have people who are victimized by their powers. Robot Man, Negative Man, Rita. We do have that. Metamorpho, Ben Grimm. We do have that. Daredevil's blind, remember? We already have it. We already have it. So I'm not saying we can't add more characters to the roster. I'm not saying that at all. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm saying, once again, they're trying to say that they invented this stuff or anything like that. And I'm going to pull it up again. Look at that. How much do we have to choose from? A lot of people, well, some people know that Wanda and Pietro are Romani. So is Dick Grayson. Did you know that? Did you know that Dick Grayson is Romani? And he's got his circus roots and everything. Did you know that? We've got a Green Lantern for just about every section. Just about every section. So it's not that it's not there. If we were going to add anything, I would like to see them add maybe some mythical figures from African literature, because we have Norse literature and we have Greek literature. I would like to see maybe some Indian literature, maybe some African literature, that kind of thing. I wouldn't mind seeing that, since we have Hercules and Thor and, Atlas and all that. That's cool. Wouldn't mind expanding that, but we still already have plenty to work with. Ironheart is written as a villain. We're supposed to believe she's good-hearted just because the show just says she does. That's right. We're supposed to believe she's all great. She's a genius and all that. Anything that's live action is supposed to be show don't tell. And all Ironheart shows us is how she's ruthless and willing to do anything to support her own agenda, which is being iconic, not helping people. She says it, so I don't know how that can be argued with. Instead of stupid, simple questions, nobody asked, like, what if Marvel Zombies was an Avengers 24? That's right. That's right. What if Captain America was a British girl? That's right. Now, that gets on my nerves like no other. Captain Carter. Peggy Carter as a character was fine. Captain Carter as a character is unnecessary. And we already have Union Jack. And we already have Captain Britain. We didn't need Captain Carter. Once again, we could use the characters that we had. Okay? Marvel can do a villain show portraying them as a good guy, then reveal that they're the villain. We already had that. That's Thunderbolts. That's what Thunderbolts were. Baron Zemo and the Masters of Evil masqueraded as heroes. And then we found out they were actually villains. And then some of them converted to being heroes because they found out they like doing good better than being evil. We already had that. That's Thunderbolts. That's not the Thunderbolts movie. The Thunderbolts movie is the Marvel Rejects. Okay, the Marvel Losers. Okay, the Marvel Outliers, the outsiders of Marvel is the Thunderbolts movie. But we have that in concept. That's the Thunderbolts. See, that's what I'm saying. We already have this stuff. We already have it. We already have it. We already have it. They refuse to honor what we already have. They refuse to use what we already have. We already have tragic characters. We already have body horror characters. We already have characters who got powers and their lives didn't get better. We already have characters that have to struggle with being accepted. That's what the X-Men are. We already have it. What we need is good writers. What we need is people that understand the characters. What we need are people that are fans themselves. That's how we get good content. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there because we've gone an hour and a half. So I'm going to wrap it up there. But thank you so much to those of you that watch me live. And thank you for all your comments. I really appreciate them. And everybody leave some comments below. Because today my topic was fatigue. So much fatigue. So we talked about celebrity fatigue. We talked about social media fatigue, because everything in fandom is a fight now. And we talked about superhero fatigue, what people are really tired of. Okay. And it's not superheroes. It's bad takes, bad writing, subversion, and them being written by people that hate them and hate us because they haven't been out of print since 1938. So you never convinced me that people are actually tired of superheroes. No, we're not. The one area I will concede, remember I told you I conceded in one area, is that Marvel, they said they focused on quantity instead of quality. I will agree with that. That was too much. After WandaVision and show after show after show, that was too much. I will agree with that. They should have taken a break after Endgame, let it rest, and come back later. I will agree that all in Disney Plus shows starting in WandaVision was too much. That was too much. I agree with that. But overall, if we could just get some better takes, we'd be fine. Okay, guys, I'm going to call it there. Again, thank you so much for joining me live. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for those of you that are watching on the replay. Don't forget to like and share my video. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, because I really appreciate these conversations. I mean, I really appreciate talking to you guys and hearing what you have to say about these different topics, just like I appreciate it on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter, DG2 Comics Chat, because we have these kind of combos every day. All right. Thanks so much. I will see you same time next Friday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time for my next weekly live Comics Chat. Thank you. DG2 Comics Chat.